Welcome, it's Katrin. Let me just check something quickly here. If everything is in order. And let's see. Okay. All right. On. All right. You should be able to hear me right now. And today I'm coming to you for something different, a little bit different. Sometimes I mix things up and it's not just about the app blend precisely, but also what I actually do with the app. And yesterday I saw a post somewhere how to use maybe the statistics, the more statistics. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen as well. So let me do this right now. And also let me check something. If everybody can see me, actually, let me go into the group and make sure you can see me. And for some reason, let me see. Yes. Okay, perfect. Yes, you can see me. Wonderful. Okay, great. So I'm going to show you today how I actually do client descriptions. So when you get a consultation call and the client calls you and says they would like to have a consultation with you, and then you set up an appointment and then you call them and you do it through Skype or WhatsApp or just a regular phone call. And then afterwards you create their blend and then you ship it out. So when I ship out the blends, I always prepare a piece of paper for them on the instructions on how to use the blends, and also a few more instructions and a little bit more about the blend as well. And sometimes I go in greater details than others. It's depending what I'm preparing. So I work with trauma and grief, and so sometimes I really go into the emotional level as well, where I explain a little bit more why I put the blends together, the way I put them together. So I thought today I'm actually just going to share you. I'm not sure, dealing with a close friend. Okay, passed during the night. I'm so sorry to hear that. It says Facebook user, so I'm not sure right now who wrote that, but feel free to let me know who that is, and I'm very, very sorry. That's always a tough one. Okay, so okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for a moment and just give you like a little overview how I go about uh, putting my piece of paper for my client together. So it's sometimes really helpful to just see somebody else do it. So let me share my screen over here. I'm going to add myself into the corner, and then you should be able to actually see my screen in a moment. Okay, let me do this. Okay, so if I go, and that's not where I want to be, let me just go over to the app quickly. And let me make sure that you can see my screen. So sorry, I just had something flying around. So she was not able to actually see her partner, and he couldn't come into the hospital, and she lost her baby. And because of COVID times, it was just really, really difficult for her. So she's been a client for several years, and and I created a blend for her back then. And I continue to create blends for her as well, just to help her through the trauma and the grieving part of losing a baby. So what I normally do is I go into Blend Precisely once I sat down and thought of the oils. And then once I created, let me see the recipe. In this case, she wanted to have an altar sanctuary spray. So when she basically goes back to the altar, she wanted to have a spray there, which would help her to overcome the pain and everything else. So I created one. And then this more statistics gives you a little bit more information about the blend, or quite a bit more actually. So what I normally do, I really like for her, for example, I like to blend by parts, by plant parts. So to create blends by plant parts, that's a difficult way of saying something. I actually go in and I have a piece of paper for every part of the blend: the resin, the wood, the flowers, the leaves, the twigs, and all of these ones. And I really enjoy when we think of nature. For me, it is amazing to see how we actually do in the forest, for example, compared to the ocean, or how we do when we walk with our feet in the sand, or if we pick flowers, or if we have flowers at home. So I love creating blends based on plant parts, and especially with her, I know that she really appreciates nature a lot. So for me, the first thing is actually I'm not looking at the oils or the oil's name so much. I look at what part of the plant will give her the most relief. And that is a completely different blending, but I do actually like the blending for Nicole in this case. I like to blend that way. And I also take quite a bit of time to actually sit down for her. Sometimes it's very easy and it's straightforward, but I feel like with clients that have trauma experiences, I'm just going to get myself back on screen. I feel like with clients that experience trauma and grief, I actually take quite a bit more time. And mostly what happens is the longer I sit with the oils, the more I can feel the client as well. So in her case, it takes me around a week to create these blends for her, and then I let them sit for another week. So mostly it's around 2 weeks turnaround time before I send them off. And because also the synergy of the blends and how the oils change once they interact with each other and so on. So I go into Blend Precisely, I create my blend. I'm going to share my screen again. I create my blend, and then I go under more statistics, and I'm going to check the plant parts and how much of each of the plant is involved in the blend. And in this case, I created the sanctuary spray, the altar sanctuary spray, and she used it. And also another one was the inhaler. Let me see if I find it back. Bring me back inhaler. And I put my notes down here. So she really wants the feeling of bringing me back before she continues to stare glance at and get the postpartum distractions. Then I go over here and I actually create this piece of paper I print and send with the blend. So obviously I put the name, the consultation date, and then the instructions. So I call it formulation use instructions. The client's name quickly one more time. I do mention, for example, the last formulation follow-up. So when we had our last formulation, which was in November 2020, for example, I ask her how things were going with the blend, and if there's anything else, I will adjust and or write this down here. So I keep a little bit track of my last follow-up, and I ask her how things were going with the blends. I also then here put in her new wishes she had, and those ones were mostly discussed during the call. And I I add the 2 products she ordered. Then whenever I'm done creating the blends, I put in the ingredients here, and I might or might not add the exact ingredients. It's depending how well you know the customer. Normally, I would say leave it out and just give them the name and not the percentage, but it's up obviously to how much you trust the customer or not, or what you want to give away from your blend or not. And so I created the inhaler here, and then I created also the altar spray over here. And then I give them a little information on how and when to use it. And then definitely I put right away here our next meeting, and how I'm going to conduct the meeting. Is it going to be through Skype, WhatsApp, phone call, or whatnot else? So I put this right away here, and then I sent her also a calendar invitation and a reminder. So in terms of using Blend Precisely a little bit closer, these statistics, what I like to do, I just logged out, sorry about that. What I like to do, for example, with the inhaler, I like to go into the more statistics here, and then grab the plant parts and the percentage, and then put them into the document. So what you see here, you will she will get a little bit more information. Sometimes, as I mentioned, I write even more. In the beginning for her, because it was a new client, I actually went pretty elaborate in explaining on what this oil, and she really, really enjoyed reading it. Now we got to the point that she knows most of my stuff, and I can just put a few points, like the resin, the wood, the this case here it's ginger, and the gum resin is pretty much the same, is doing for her. So that is for me a way of serving the customer on based on their needs, and not just purely the essential oils and the Latin oils. So I do give definitely more information. And then again, as I mentioned, it's depending what kind of client it is. If they don't care at all, or if the blend doesn't really require to name any of the emotional aspects what nature brings to you, then I leave it out as well. But most of my customers really enjoy reading a little bit more about the plant parts and what plant parts are meant to do. And I love, for example, the peel oils, meaning bergamot, orange, lemon, any of those ones, because they really protect the inside quite a bit. I mean, the rind is so thick that they protect the seeds and everything else, and that's how I see them. It's like almost a joyful mother of their little babies and everything else. So that is just how I work with some of my customers who would like to go more on the emotional lane. And then I quickly mention on how to use these as suggestions, but how to use the inhaler and also how to use the altar spray. Definitely, if you do lotions or anything else, then you might have something else to say. And that is pretty much what I do for my consultations and my follow up or formulation instructions, and what I give them in terms of information. So I think. Um, if you don't do this yet, I felt like my customers or my clients, they are really appreciating more insights of the oils I've been using in their blends. And also, I think they just like a piece of paper they can put with their blends and also refer back to. It's also another way for me to refer back to what I've actually given them. And I put this in a separate folder. I use Google Drive for everything. So all of my blends, all of my consultations, everything lands in a folder on Google Drive. So that for me is really important. And once I'm done with this consultation, for example, here, I print it out, I send it with a blend. Obviously, I put like a little handwritten note at the bottom as well. And then I follow up with them a little bit later or on the next consultation, depending how far away the consultation is, the next one. So in this case, for example, it's in November, and I would not necessarily follow up right away after the August one. I would just let her be with this. I also know that she moved, for example. So there are a few things you get to know about your clients more and more. And in this case, I really like to use the Blend Precisely app for any kind of information or chakra information and so on. So for me, the statistics give me an opportunity to basically talk more about the blend and not just the ingredient itself or the ingredients. And if I do perfume blends, I'm so happy to talk about the middle and base notes and how things disappear when it's a top note and so on faster. So I definitely use those statistics big times when I write up these client instruction or formulation use instructions. So I wanted to show you that today, and I hope it's helpful. Sometimes it's good to see somebody else's workflow, and you can copy and paste it over into your workflow, because we are here to actually help each other, and that's what I believe we should be all doing, so we can grow our aromatherapy businesses. And I hope this one was a little bit helpful for you. And if you have any questions, let me know. And we will be back, or I will be back next Wednesday at 4 p.m. again. So always an hour earlier for the next 2 more weeks, I believe. Yeah, 2 more weeks, an hour earlier. Normally I come on at 5 p.m. GMT time, but this time I need to bring my daughter to pottery. So I'm a little bit early, like an hour early. But you can watch this one obviously at any point during the next months and years ahead. Okay, so I will talk to you very soon, and thank you for checking in. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, talk to you soon. Bye bye. Ciao.